XYZ. Someone calls water on another
Right.
planet XYZ, you know?
Yeah, Hillary Putnam's paper, where it's well, actually, it's we call it water. We don't realize we've shifted from Earth to twin Earth. But
Oh,
on twin Earth, water is not composed with H2O, it's XYZ. So when I use the word water to refer to it, it is water, but it's not H2O. So what am I referring to? Right, exactly.
yeah.
Am I referring to Earth stuff or am I referring to XYZ? And so part of what is trying to, that paper by Putnam and Burge's follow up work on that are trying to tease out are meanings things that are just purely things that we apply, or are they things that are kind of bound by conditions in the world? But yeah, you get back to like the color terms thing. I mean, that's just, I think it's a very similar thing, and it raises the same kind of question: is what are the operative categories that we deal with in our day-to-day lives, right? So I haven't gone through a process of formulating a concept of this, and I don't have to because it has no bearing on how I live my life. Then I'm not going to have like a box to slot those terms into. Or I'll have one box that does all the things because I only need one green or something like this. But if there are legitimate differences in the way that we go about living our lives because, we need to know this and that for, all sorts of reasons that are tied into our daily habits and practices, well, then it makes sense. I'm going to have two different boxes or three different boxes for these different shades, what we would call shades of green or something like that. And they might be seen as visually different colors.
Right.
Or, similarly, getting into physiological things, there's the tetrachromats, right? So normal standard color vision, or what we call normal color vision, is trichromatic, right? We have three sets of rods and cones. Tetrachromats have four. They can vividly see 100 million different colors, whereas we can't. like for the tetrachromat, yeah, of course those are different greens, duh, right? It lights up that way. Colorblind people, who are bichromatic, they would just say, well, it's some kind of brown, right, or something like that,
That's a
because it's just kind of a mush.
We have to put these colors in boxes. Otherwise, it becomes so confusing. But at the same time, we have people who are colorblind. So how do you explain, that there's differences in perception of the same color, right? Because it's, it's like, what is that? It's an objective, it's a external object, physical object, I guess. But at the same time, it's really just wavelengths from the sun bouncing on this object, bouncing in our eyes, and our occipital lobe processing in a certain way. So it's like, but I guess my final thing on all of this is, just think about the categories. We have to have categories to understand reality. And maybe when we first came to be, we looked at reality just like how language comes to be. And we say, this is different from this. Let's call this and this, and that's how yeah.
Yeah, I think basic category formation, and then the way that we pass those categories down, right, in systems of meaning, tied back to meaning, plays a big role in how these things function.
Yeah,
And those categories can drift. Meanings can drift over time,
yeah,
or sometimes they reverse. And
it's
that's
weird. Right? Yeah, they
Mhm.
change over time with different contexts.
Since it starts as a baby and you begin to experience the world, and what becomes real to that human being is like what we were talking about, what Chelstrom was mentioning, that is what we need to live within our world. And so if we don't need something, we almost discard it to a certain degree, right? We just don't need it in on our reality to function as a human being. And so we sometimes discard it to the side. It's not as crucial knowing 20,000 shades of green. And so we just know three or four and that's enough. And so I think that's a really interesting concept, which comes to the question, well, is there more reality than the reality that I experienced?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that you're hitting on why these are sticky questions that keep persisting. Is right, if it turns out that something about how I'm interacting with it affects my judgments about it, well, then how do I know that I'm not wrong? How do I know there's not more? Because I could just, or these other people do these other things, and so on and so forth. Yeah.